Hello Year 13, welcome to this video which will help you to plan your essay on the power struggle in 1924 to 1929. First of all, let's take a look at the question. Why did Stalin, not Trotsky, emerge as leader of the USSR by 1929? So the first thing we can see here is that this is a causation question. We're being asked to weigh up or evaluate the different reasons why Stalin emerged as leader. There's also a comparative element in this question too. We need to compare Stalin's success with Trotsky's failures. So all the way through the essay, we'll keep coming back to that. Why Stalin and why not Trotsky? Our time frame is up to 1929. Now, one tip I can give you here is that we need to break that time period down into phases rather than seeing it just as one whole chunk. So how could we break it down? Let's think about that for a moment. So the first phase of the power struggle was in 1924. This is when Lenin's funeral was held and his testament was about to be read. The party was fearful of splits, and there was also a huge fear of Bonapartism. The party members were scared that a military dictator might arise and seize power. The outcome in this phase was that Lenin's testament was hushed up and Stalin portrayed himself as Lenin's heir successfully. And when it came to votes at the Congress, the triumvirate of Stalin, Kamenev and Zinoviev defeated the left opposition led by Trotsky. The second phase of the power struggle in 1925 to 1927 happened at a time when the NEP was really doing rather well. The economy was developing very quickly, and this is one reason why the duumvirate of Stalin and Bukharin were able to defeat the new opposition, Kamenev and Zinoviev. Stalin and Bukharin's policy of continuing the NEP was really appealing at this point in time. In 1927, the united opposition, Trotsky, Kamenev and Zinoviev, were then expelled. In the final phase of the power struggle between 1928 to 1929, the NEP's fortunes had turned. It was now not working so successfully and the economy was starting to stagnate. There was also a major war scare towards the end of 1927, which really shaped party thinking. The party became increasingly fearful that that Russia was about to be invaded by capitalist powers. The outcome of this phase was that Stalin successfully defeated the right deviation made up of Bukharin, Tomsky and Rykov. So try to see the power struggle in phases rather than as one whole chunk. So what factors could we write about in our answer? Here are some ideas. We could write about some of the personal qualities and skills which Stalin and Trotsky had, which led to Stalin's victory. We could write about how Stalin's policies helped him to victory and were much more appealing than other policies offered by his opponents. Here, we need to be really careful to root this in context. We need to explain why Stalin's policies appealed at that specific time. We could write about the positions and the power bases of the candidates. What was it about Stalin's positions which gave him such an advantage in the power struggle? We could write about Stalin's rivals' mistakes and weaknesses. What tactical errors did they make? And here we might talk about not just Trotsky, but some of the other candidates and their mistakes and weaknesses too. We could also write about the culture and structure of the party. Now, before the power struggle even began, there were some really significant changes going on in the party, which helped Stalin later to win. So, for example, During the Civil War, the party became far more bureaucratic, more disciplined and less democratic, and that helped Stalin to win later. We also know that after the Civil War, Lenin introduced the ban on factions, which Stalin was able to use later and turn to his advantage. Could also write about how the Lenin enrollment had changed the nature of the party and how a number of new members had been enrolled whose priorities were very different to the older Bolsheviks. And that favoured Stalin too. Lastly, we could think about the role of luck, but my advice to you here is not to exaggerate this. I might mention luck and use it to balance some of the points that I make, but I probably wouldn't write a whole section on luck. So don't over-exaggerate it. Before you write, you should definitely make a plan. Here's one way of planning your answer. You could do it as a table like this. At the top, you'll need to fill in which 3 factors you're going to focus on in your answer, and these will be the 3 main themes for your main sections. Then you can start to jot down your ideas. Firstly, your analysis. How did each of these factors help Stalin to succeed? You'll need to record key points and evidence which you're going to include. This must include some specific examples from the power struggle. You might want to highlight which evidence is most and least convincing and think about why. Secondly, evaluation. How important was this factor in relation to the others? So you're ranking those factors from most to least important. You also need to jot down what points or evidence will you provide to support that decision. Here, one really good thing to consider is whether the factors are related in any way. Perhaps one of your factors is more important because it makes the other factors happen. So how do you lay your answer out? It needs to have 3 parts: an intro, a main body, and a conclusion. In the intro, you need to set the context and address the question. Tell the reader which 3 factors you're going to focus on, and make sure you state your line of argument for each section. Also, state your overall decision. Next, your main sections. You're going to write 3 of these, and they will be bigger than paragraphs. Each main section should start by introducing one of the factors, and then you need to analyse that factor, picking out ways in which it helped Stalin to succeed. You might want to draw comparisons with Trotsky's failure. Make sure you give specific evidence and examples to support this. You also need to evaluate. In other words, you need to make decisions about how important this factor was in relation to the others, and you need to support those decisions with evidence and reasoning. Lastly, your conclusion. At the end of your answer, draw it together by restating your overall decision. Summarise what the strongest counter-arguments are on the opposing side, and then give your winning points. Good luck with the essay. I'll look forward to reading them.